Hey, welcome to Love Relo, the voice of the relocation industry. I am your host, Ben Cross, and I am here with Marci Howes, development at Relocation America International. How's it going, Marci?
Oh, it's going great. It's 50 and sunny in Michigan.
What is that,
Can't
summer
be
weather?
what? Oh yeah, summer weather, right? I should be in like shorts and a t-shirt right now.
In Michigan, my neighbor would be out in his basketball shorts and his sandals out in Michigan when I lived there. If it was 50 degrees out, I tell you what, I had one year I lived in Michigan for about 5 years, and I remember one year it was like negative 16 degrees. It was so cold that you'd walk outside and your nose, like the inside of your nose, would freeze. And I looked out, and my neighbor's out there in his basketball shorts and his flip flops, picking up dog poop, and he's an older gentleman, and I'm just
Mhm.
like, this could either be really funny or really sad here in a second, So, anyway, hey, welcome everybody out there. Get in the comments. I want to know who you are, where you are, how's the weather where you are. Let us know. We're going to be talking to Marci today. Marci has one of the most amazing stories in relocation. She was in it for a long time. She left the game for quite a while. Cancer survivor. So we're going to celebrate that with Marci as well today. And we're going to talk about everything in between. So Marci's kind of an open book here, and she's going to really kind of be open with us. And that's really cool. I have a lot of questions for her. And I've recently got to know Marci through our good friend, Brad Hamlin, who's one of my oldest friends in Michigan. Shout out to Brad if he's out there. Marci, you've come back to the industry after a long time
Right.
of being gone, and I want to hear what that's like. But first, I want to just hop into something because I'd be remiss if we didn't celebrate here. You have a kind of a big personal kind of announcement milestone thing that you've accomplished, had happened to you recently. You're now cancer free now. Is that right, Marci?
Yeah, so last Tuesday, I celebrated 10 years of being cancer free.
Wow, 10
Yeah,
years. What a
yeah,
milestone.
a huge milestone. And I am just like celebrating life. I've been highly emotional about it and happy to answer any questions about it, share my journey. That is like the gift of what I've gone through is being able to help others.
Yeah, no, and I love it. And I appreciate your openness too, because so many people go through this, and it's even happened in my family where people are going through this battle, and they're not. I didn't even know. I didn't know
Right.
until like much later in the process, and and it's something that people don't always feel comfortable talking about. Marcia, why is that? When so many people around them who love them want to know and be a part of that.
Right. Well, first of all, it's so devastating when you're going through it. I mean, I was just barely making it through the day, right? And it's just so overwhelming. And I mean, it never at any point did anyone ever tell me I was going to die from cancer. I had two forms, which we can talk about within months of each other. But
Two forms within months, two different
yeah,
forms.
two
Are they
unrelated.
related or
They were
coincidental, or how's that
they
happen?
were unrelated, and I guess we can just like kind of jump into that if you want to, right?
Yeah,
So,
super curious.
and this might be a little TMI, but I'm going to throw it out there. So the first form I had was bladder cancer. So it's February 2013. I have blood in my urine. I'm like, what the what? Right. So I go see my
Yeah.
primary care physician, and he's like, it's probably nothing. He's like, but let's just do a CAT scan to make sure. I go in later that week for a CAT scan. Well, Ben, it's bad within hours after the test. You get a call. So I was at University of Michigan, and they're like, yeah, we need you to come immediately back to the clinic because you
Wow.
have a tumor and we think it may be cancer. I was like, what? I'm like, my
What?
kids are supposed to be coming home from school in like a couple hours. They're like, no, like you need to get here. So my kids were in third grade in kindergarten when this went down.
Oh my gosh.
So I call my brother, he comes over. I have this test done, and they're like, yeah, the doctor's like, with 90% probability, he's like, this is a cancerous tumor. We need to go in and operate. So that gets scheduled, right? And I am just like full out. If there's a few things to know about me, like I'm wired for anxiety and I am a germaphobe. Okay. So I am like anxious I go
What were you
in.
thinking? Yeah, what's going through
Well, I
your
mean, it's
mind at this
like, first
moment?
of all, bladder cancer doesn't happen to women. Like bladder cancer, the statistic for bladder cancer, it's like older guys get bladder cancer that were smokers. I've never smoked. Like never. I mean, now I will say, like, I've been around a lot of secondhand smoke just from family members being in bars, like college, right? Whatever.
Right.
Um, but like it's one of those things where I can look back now, and in 2013, my husband and I had a set of circumstances that were highly stressful that I was going through. And I just don't think that I was emotionally dealing with it in the right way. And just the perfect storm brewed up in my body for this to
Wow.
happen to me.
Wow.
I mean, and again, like my bladder doctor, he's like, I have zero explanation as to why this happened to you. But here's the funny thing. So what I had was a superficial tumor. The best
A
form of
superficial tumor?
superficial, meaning it was not like it's off of the bladder, it's not fully attached to the bladder. So it's a very like mild form of a cancerous tumor, very
Okay.
easily removed. And so it's like you've got cancer, but guess what? You've got a great form of cancer, right? Like that's not really a
Silver
consolation
lining. Yeah, right.
prize, right? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. So I go in for the surgery. I have complications from the surgery. It was supposed to be outpatient. I ended up having to spend the night, needed emergency surgery in the morning because when they sutured me up, it wasn't done fully and I was bleeding. So awesome. So again, my brother, my poor brother is with my kids and he who doesn't have kids, right? And I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm spending the night, blah, blah, blah. I remember calling the school in the morning
Yeah.
going like, I'm gonna be having emergency surgery soon. And I don't know if my kids are coming to school with lunch or not, right?
Right.
Like these,
Right.
like it was
Yeah, because people who don't have kids also are like don't know what to do when they're like kids are trusting their life. They're like, oh, yes.
right.
Oh my gosh, you had so much on your mind, and then I mean, I just want to flash forward here and shout out to everybody that's checking in here. We got a ton of people checking in. Hit that like button. Send a little love out to Michigan, out to Marci. Send some support out there. We're hearing about her story, and we're going to get into also being away from the industry and coming back. We got Jack and Adam and Molly and Adrian and Brad and Richard checking in from Brazil. That's awesome. Hit that like button, send a little love out there. Get in the comments if something has if cancer's kind of touched your life at all, and let us know out there. But Marci, but to flash forward though, because you had that operation, but then to flash forward, you said another form of cancer developed
Okay,
like shortly
right. Okay,
thereafter.
yeah. Okay. So I get the results back. They're like, yes, it was a cancerous tumor. They're like, no treatment needed. You are a cancer survivor, right? I'm like, okay, like I couldn't even make sense of what happened. The following month, I go in to see my OBGYN for my normal, like routine visit. And she walks in the room and she's like, oh my God, I was just reading the notes, like bladder cancer, right? And I'm like, I know. So then she's doing the exam. She finds a tumor on the outside of my breast. Okay. So it's not like like it was just really crazy. She goes, I feel something. And it's like, these are the words you do not want to be hearing, right?
Right.
She's like, don't, and she goes, don't freak out. It's small, it's movable. She's like, and I'm like, how could I not be freaking out now? Like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Don't
Like, I'm like, what the heck
do
is
your
happening?
cancer screening. Don't freak out.
I know, right? So she's like, you need to go for a biopsy, etc. Like, let's see, we'll see what it is. So I do that. And several days later, I get the call from the radiologist, and she's like, you have breast cancer. But good news, it's a good form of breast cancer.
You've been getting all the good cancers apparently. Like, are you kidding me right now?
She's like,
Like,
it's early stages, it's triple positive, it's a good thing. She goes, I hate making these calls. She's like, but it's a good thing. So Ben, like, and it's like I have this vision of myself. Like I can see the call happening. I went into the kitchen. I tell my husband, I walk into the pantry. I get a bottle of Chardonnay out. Okay. I open it up. I pour myself a big, and it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I pour a big glass of wine. And he goes, what are you doing? And I'm like,
you hadn't
I
told
mean,
him yet? You hadn't told him, you just went
no,
right to
no,
the
no,
pantry and got the
no, I
shard?
did tell him. No, I
Oh,
told him.
okay.
That's why he was kind of like, why are you drinking? Like, that's terrible. I'm like, I'm drinking because it is terrible. So I'm like drinking this. And I said, this may be the last glass of wine I have for a long time.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
I haven't had a glass of wine since then. And that's going to be like 10 years or any alcohol. And I want to say, like, I'm like, and I feel like it's like, I don't have a drinking problem, but like one of my doctors just recommended, just for health reasons, statistically, it's better for me to give it up. So I have not had alcohol since 2013. That last glass of Chardonnay. And it was like, I want to say April 16th, something like that.
And you decided it was a good idea to get back in the relocation industry? That's like 100% of the way we cope during peak season. I mean, you're about to get back into your first peak season in a long time, and I don't know what you gotta do. That brings me to yoga, I guess we're gonna talk about next. But this, Marci, thank you so much for sharing. People are chiming in here. All kidding aside, saying, Marci, you're so brave to share. My mother is on her second round of chemotherapy for gastrointestinal cancer.
Nice. Well, you know what, and Ben, there's a piece of the story that I'd really like to share with everybody.
Please.
So, okay, so I've got, this tumor, and that too required 2 rounds of surgery. Like nothing was easy. Okay. So during, like, from the time of diagnosis, and I think it was like 3 weeks until they could operate, I altered my diet dramatically. Okay. And I'm a pretty thin person to begin with. I mean, I think I dropped like another 8 pounds. And I think it was mainly just not because of my eating, but I was like stressed out, right? I mean, who wouldn't be?
Right.
Okay. So tumor gets removed. It's our anniversary. So it's a Friday. Phone rings. It's U of M. I look at my husband. I go, I don't want to take this call. He goes, you need to take the call because they're calling with the results from the surgery, right? And this nurse gets on the phone with me and she's like, you need to come back to the hospital on Monday. There's this thing called tumor board where when you have a cancerous tumor, all doctors and nurses, they get together, they discuss your case, and they come up with a course of action for you. Okay. So I'd already gone through this one time. They're like, she goes, you still have cancer, so you need to come back. I'm like, what the what? Like, I thought he removed it, right? So I spent the weekend thinking I still have cancer. I go back on Monday. I meet with the surgeon, and I am like just down in the dumps. I am depressed. I'm like, I looked at him and I'm like, where's the silver lining in all this? And he's like, Marci, like, what's going on? And I'm like, well, I still have cancer, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you don't have cancer. He's like, I got rid of the tumor. He goes, you just had some precancerous cells. He's like, your margins were not clean enough. Okay. So he just wanted to go back in and just make sure that I was like, everything was gone. Right.
So do a little surgery to kind of clean up the margins,
the margins of where the tumor had been. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So in that time, like I'm doing wheatgrass juice shots. I'm doing like all this crazy stuff. I'm meeting with energy, like healers. I mean, there's like a lot of hocus pocus that's happening around me. Okay.
Okay.
We're going to fast forward. So I did 5 rounds of chemo, and then I did 6 weeks of radiation. Radiation, you go every single day. It's really depressing, but you get through it. I meet with the radiation doctor, and she like reviews my case, and she goes, I've got a question for you. I'm like, okay, what? She's like, well, your tumor was whatever size it was. She's like, when you had your biopsy, but when they took it out, it was half the size. I shrunk my tumor in half in 3 weeks, Ben.
What?
Now,
how was that?
I have no idea.
You shrunk your tumor?
So nobody the doctors never told me. And I never I was like overwhelmed with information. So it was kind of like the less information I knew, the better. I was just kind of getting through things. But yeah, so something I did actually shrunk the tumor in half.
What do you attribute? Like, do you attribute that to the clean eating? I
think it's the clean eating. I'm going to say the wheatgrass juice. So the woman, and again, what I'm saying to you, I'm not a medical professional. And every person is different. Everybody's its own chemistry experiment. Someone said, do a shot of wheatgrass juice daily, which I was like laughing. I'm like, I used to do vodka shots. Now I'm doing wheatgrass juice shots. Right. And this woman said, tape the pulp from the wheatgrass juice in the area where the tumor is at. So I was doing that for like 30 minutes. I mean, again, I know
tape it. You said
tape it. Yes. I was like literally, that's what I'm telling you. This is like my crazy hocus pocus. I took the pulp from the thing and I'm like taping it in the area where the tumor is.
Because at this point, you're going to try anything, right?
Exactly. It's like I've got nowhere to go but up, right? So was it that? I don't know. Is it a miracle? Could be.
I feel like we're just curing cancer on a Tuesday here on Love and Relo. You heard it here from Marci. Marci Howes from RAI shrunk her tumor in half, maybe wheatgrass shots, maybe the pulp, a lot of trying a lot of things, probably a lot of positive energy.
Yes.
We got a lot of people checking in here. This is please share your story here in the comments here. Hit that like button, send some love out to Marci. We've got people checking in here. Let's see here. Nicole McGarvey. Hello from South Carolina. Brian Brooks checking in with Marci from Brian Brooks from EU Ward. What's up, Brian? Good friend of the show. Always great to hear from the Relo pros. Got Jana Chezanoski. Hello from beautiful Rio, Brazil. Happy to hear from you, Marci.
Awesome.
Let's see. If your name's not showing up here, just showing up as LinkedIn user, let us know. Let us know who it is. Sometimes it's a setting or something like that. Molly Spalding, that is fabulous, Marci. Molly's big supporter there. Brad Hamlin says, Marci and I started in the relocation industry back in 1996. She is one of my all-time favorite people along with you. See, he knows me well enough, Marci. If he hears me say that someone is his favorite person, he knows I'm going to take issue with it. He's gonna be like, no, I'm your favorite person. I'm petty like that. Love you, Brad. Brad's amazing. And we're going to go back to 1996 too, Marci, because you're going to tell me all about that as well here in a minute. Adrian Grimes checking in from the Glomo office here. What's up, Adrian? What's up, Adrian? How's it going? Let's see here. We're getting my cords tangled and stuff here. Richard Gerson checking in from Brazil as well.
Awesome.
It's hot. That's great. Adam checking. Super producer Adam. Shout out to Adam. Super producer Adam, our video production manager here on Love and Relo, also doing projects as well for a lot of our clients out there. People are checking in here and sharing. Aaron Venable saying greetings from Kansas City. Thanks so much for sharing this. Marci, I'm sure you know this. I mean, your story is really inspiring to a lot of people. It gives a lot of people hope. And
thank you. Well, and there's a couple of the things I just wanted to add in. So one of the worst things about going through what I went through was losing my hair. I mean, as a woman, and it's like hair is such a big part of our identity, right? And telling my kids I was going to lose my hair too, right? So, and it's like I didn't want to scare my kids, so it's like I tried to make it like very animated, and I was like, listen, I'm going to have to take this medicine, and it's got this crazy side effect, and they're like, what? And I'm like, I'm going to lose my hair. Both of their faces were like, and they're like, is it going to grow back? And I was like, yes. So I decided that if this was going to happen, I was going to make it fun for myself. I got 6 different wigs, Ben. So I had my like Kid Rock groupie hair. I had my Kardashian hair. I had like bob hair. I mean, I had like it all, just depending upon what my mood was.
Wait, you had Bob Portali hair?
Bob Portali hair.
Oh shout out to Bob Portali here. Yeah, go ahead.
Love Bob Portali. Yeah,
no, that's fun. I love it though, right? Like it's like, okay, if we're gonna do this, like you're gonna have. I love that attitude. You're gonna have fun with it, and kind of probably rock some styles that you wouldn't normally do, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I had fun with that part, but I will say, like, I did cry a lot about that. My husband was like, out of all the things that you could cry about, like your hair, and I was like, yes, my hair. Like this is freaking terrible. Like that was the worst. But like having the wigs did help make it better. And I will also say, like, the love and support that I got from my community during this time was just tremendous. And if like of anybody going through cancer or like a health challenge, like the best way to help them, in my opinion, my humble opinion, is give them a meal, make them a meal, give them a gift card for a meal. Like that was the most helpful thing to me, because it was just one less thing that I had to think about during the day.
I appreciate you saying that, because I'm one of those people that struggles with what do I say? What do I do? I'm told you don't say, how can I help? Because it's like,
right.
Too vague, right? But, but the getting them a meal. I also had Dr. Yvette Best on. She's a Publix. She runs our relocation program. She was sharing her story, her survival story. She said the same thing about the meal. So, that's the second person I've heard this from. I love it. And she also said, an Uber gift card because they may need to be going to chemo or they may need to
Right.
whatever, and
Oh,
that
yeah.
helps as well.
Totally. Yeah. Because like having people drive you around is tremendously helpful. Definitely. And then also as simple as just texting someone and telling them you're thinking about them. Like I had people like sending me cards. I mean, I didn't necessarily, you just don't want to talk to people, but just like knowing people that they're thinking about you is just really, really helpful. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for sharing that. That's
Sure, of
helpful
course.
for us. Chris Benson saying so inspiring and funny.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm glad you like it, Chris. We always try to find the silver linings, I guess. Brad sharing here. Brad, hey, thanks for sharing. Saying, having lost my beautiful sister, Luann, to ovarian cancer in 2019 at the age of 50, I know how devastating cancer can be. Marci's story is a source of inspiration.
Thanks, Brad. Love Brad.
Yeah, Brad's amazing. And I was friends with Brad in Michigan when he and his family were going through that. And just love you, Brad. Bob Portale says, I don't typically comment for competitors, LOL, but for Marci, I will definitely make an exception. She is one of the industry's best, and I'm so glad she decided to come back. The relocation industry is, scratch that, the world is a better place with you.
Oh, Bob,
Marci.
thank you so much.
Yeah, Bob's awesome. Shout out to Bob Portale. Hey, so this is a great segue into you're back. You're back in this business,
Yes.
Marci. What the heck were you thinking?
Okay, and I'm back because of Brad. Like it's such a random story.
Brad's such a bad influence on people.
Oh my God. So, like during my time off raising my family, I was still like keeping it current. Like I was consulting with companies, helping out with RFPs and, doing different skill sets. Anyways, my son graduated from high school this past year, and I'm like, okay, I need to go back to work full time. Like I'm gonna go nuts, like being in the house. Like I was working part time at a school, so I'm like interviewing. Brad does not even know this. So one day I open up my email, and like on OneDrive, like you'll get like photo pop up memories.
Yes.
I get this it's a Saturday morning. I look and I'm like, what the heck is this? And there's like two pictures. One of them's of Brad, and then the other one is of like this computer screen. So Executive Relocation, which is where I started off with, had our system called Retrack. I'm like, this is random. So of course I click it because I want to see what it is. It was my last sales presentation from 2004. And like, it was super exciting because at that point, it was like brand new for PowerPoint. You could embed video. So I had like interviewed Brad, and these were the outtakes of that, like Brad messing up, like for the videos. They were so funny. So
that's got to be cool. Do you still have that?
I do. Yeah.
Can we air that? And I'm actually happy you brought that up because we've actually loaded that footage here onto the show. I'm just kidding. We don't have that, Brad, but we will.
Anyways, I text Brad, right? I'm like, look what I found. Oh my God. He texts me back. He goes, we have your old position open. Are you interested? And I'm like, what?
What was the first thought? Be honest. What was the first thought that went through your head?
Well, my first thought was like, what? And then I was like, why would you want to hire me? Like, honestly, I was like, why would you want to hire me, Brad?
Strong interview question, by the way, Marci.
I was like, and again, it's like, I'm trying to talk him out of this whole process. I'm like, I've been out of the business for 18 years. Like, I'm a dinosaur. Like, I'm like, and I've worked all facets of relo, right? Like I've been in client services. It's like the crux of what relocation is and what we do. I know it. I've lived it. I love it. Okay. I mean, I love relocation. I really feel passionate about the industry, but I just kind of thought it was a closed door. So this is a story of never say never, right? Brad's like, I think you would be amazing. He's like, you're super tenacious, which I am. And he's like, you're a known commodity to us, but you're an unknown commodity to the industry right now. And you're going to be bringing a lot of enthusiasm. Right. So I was like, okay, like, let's do this.
He really sold you on. If Brad believes in something, he can be extremely convincing.
Oh yeah. Brad was very convincing. So then, I talked with Patrick Novak, had an interview with him, had an interview with a couple other like HR people. And with Patrick too, I was like, are you sure you want to do this? Cause I'm like, it's sales, right? It's like, it's relationship building, like relocation. It's all about like who, I'm like,
That's
I
fair.
know. I'm like, I know nobody. I'm like, I'm just gonna be starting from scratch. They're like, that's okay. Like, we know you can do this. Like, you've got what it takes. I was like, okay. So I've got the enthusiasm of like someone freshly out of college, but I've also got the wisdom of my experience being in my early 50s.
You know what? That's a killer combination.
Yeah.
Because one of my favorite quotes, and speaking of knowing people, Jack Jampel checking in. Hi from Philly. What's up, Jack? Leave your questions for Marci in the comments. I want to know what you're thinking. I want to ask her about the differences in relocation when her first go round to now, what she's seeing. Put your questions in here. I'd love to know, Jack, and everybody else. Kyle over here says, welcome back, Marci Howes. Kyle, put your questions in there. Chris Benson, Scott Chapman. I want to know your questions in there. But one of my favorite quotes, Marci, is nothing great was accomplished without enthusiasm.
Oh, that's awesome.
And there is so much to be, and I have another enthusiasm quote. I think it was Winston Churchill who said, success is going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm.
Oh, love that too.
I'm a
Awesome.
big quotes person and I'm a big
Yeah.
enthusiasm person, if you couldn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's amazing. And then I think the other thing is, a lot of times enthusiasm is is only for frankly, the young and naive, right? But to
Right.
combine experience and actually having done it before, and I think that's kind of what Brad was saying too, like having a fresh take on it, but yet having context, right? Because
Right.
I remember when I was new to this industry and I was young, I had enthusiasm, but I had no experience. So I didn't actually know
Mhm.
what I was talking about. So I was like, "Hey, nice to meet you," but I didn't actually know what I was talking about, right? So if you
Right.
can solve for that, I think that is an amazing combination.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah,
And I've had some great mentors along the way too, which is where I'm gonna give a couple of shout outs, like Jack
love shout outs.
Craven. I've never like officially said this, but you are my unofficial official mentor. Jack has been supportive of me personally and professionally so I started executive in 1996. And then Jack and I started working in the marketing department with Jack and Bob in 1998. And between Jack and Bob Pertale, which Bob, I'm going to send you equal amounts of love and gratitude. They trained me in sales and marketing and have just been so extremely supportive to me throughout my career, throughout my life professionally. And then coming back, both of them, I mean, technically they're at competitors, right? And they've both like reached out to me. How can I help you? And I'm just really, really filled with gratitude.
Well, Jack's checking in here and says, hello from warm Chicago. Look great, Marci. Look the same, Ben. Real nice, Jack. Real nice. Uh, Jack, Jack says Marci managed our proposal management and marketing team during our greatest growth period.
Correct. Yes.
Wow. Fact.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, Carrie Takamatsu's checking in. Welcome back to the industry, Marci.
Thank
Carrie's
you.
also amazing. Chris Benson has a question. Put your questions in the comments. I want to prioritize the questions of our listeners. Please put your questions in here. I want to make this show about you, the listener. We will always prioritize your questions. Chris says, what was the biggest change about relocation you discovered when you returned? Thank you, Chris. This is the question I want to know. How has it changed? It's 2023. You got into this business in what year, Marci?
1996, right? Like, again,
96.
Brad and I were fighting over typewriters in client services,
The
beepers,
year was
right? We were like,
1996.
yeah,
You were
crazy.
working typewriters. Jay-Z
Crazy.
dropped his first album. It was a different time back then. What
Right.
was it like? You said beepers. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it was like,
What was it like then?
what was it like then? Well, yeah, I mean, different times, right? I mean, it was like executive was in a big growth period, and I was 25 years old when I started. So, I mean, again, like I was like filled with enthusiasm for the industry. And I'm kind of curious because I'm going to throw this back to you. So, like, I manage the trade show booths and like, all the
Oh
ERC
wow.
events. Like, we used to do like huge client entertaining back in the day.
Yeah.
So I was in charge of all of that. It's like, does that stuff still happen?
That's a
I know.
great question. That's a great question. I think conference booth, and let's put it in the comments. Our conference, our exhibit booths, expo booths, still important? Is it important to exhibit at worldwide ERC and the big, the big conferences. I want to know. Put it in the comments. I want people to vote on this. I think we have a little bit of a lag, but I want to know: is it important? And we have clients too. We have corporate clients in the audience too. Is it important, salespeople, corporate clients, everybody? Is it important, yes or no, to exhibit at Worldwide ERC? Bonus points if you want to tell us why. So you asked two things. You asked about the conference, but you also asked about the entertaining.
Right.
For me, I'm a big fan of exhibiting personally. It costs a lot of money. We haven't done it since I've had my own company. We spend money in other areas. So that brings me to my second point.
Right.
And the client entertaining, yes, that very much does happen. I think now it almost feels like now more than ever, there's a lot of individualized. I'd say it happens now more than ever. There's a lot of individualized dinners at the conference. In fact, to the point where it actually detracts from the main conference because people like leave the overarching, group
Right.
thing and they kind of splinter off. There's also a whole lot of client conferences, like relocation conferences, and a lot of companies do their own conference. And I think that also is challenging for the big national or big global conference because everybody's kind of going to like, half dozen or more different
Right.
industry big conferences they feel they have to go to because it's their client's party. So I want to hear from other people out there. We got people coming in the comments here. I want to know what you think. If you're a service provider, do you think there's ROI there? If you're a corporate person, do you find value in exhibitors, and them presenting? Let me know.
And then I was going to say one of the things, Christopher, like asking about the biggest change, like the uptick in international, right? Like when I was in the business, like when I left, that's when like the GMS was just coming out. International was just becoming like a thing. I mean, it was always happening, right? But it was really becoming a thing in 2004. Now it's like the main focus appears to be international.
Yeah, I think that I don't want to say that's where the money is, but I think that's where the growth is. And I think conversely, at the same time, the money from the domestic side has diminished. And
Right.
what I mean by that is like home sale,
Right.
right? Like I
Exactly.
was talking to a president of a RMC recently, and they're like that those juicy home sales aren't really as much a part of programs as they were. The homes are, the shipments are getting smaller, the demographics are changing or getting, younger and stuff like that. And then conversely, the long-term assignments, and this is kind of more of an international thing, have gotten fewer and farther between, and there's more business travel and short-term, travel that takes the place of that. And they were saying really the last leg of the stool is the transportation revenue. And so, I think then when you look at international, I think the international and global piece is huge. I think I kind of have the saying like the margins are in the mystery.
Mm.
And I feel like a lot of people think they know how to do domestic and they don't need the managed help as much as,
Okay.
for instance, like international. Like, are you more like, are you going to find lump sums on the international side like you see on the domestic side? Like it just seems more like you get tax help on the international side, even though there's tax issues on the domestic side, but nobody would give tax assistance, for instance, right?
Right.
Tax prep assistance, things like that. So there's just more of like, it's more intuitive that yes, I need a relocation management company to assist in a global transfer
Right.
versus a domestic one. That's
Right.
my mindset
Okay.
on it. That's what I think. But
Yeah.
let's see, we got people checking in here. Jack Craven. Yeah, and I'd also like to know, where do you see the growth? If you're watching right now, do you see the growth on the domestic side? Do you see it on the international side? Has there been a sea change in that? Is there a shift? Let me know what you think out there. Put it in the comments. I'd love to hear from both the
I've got
corporate
another
folks
question for
and
you.
the let's see here. Jack says on exhibiting, cannot see the ROI. Our Thursday night parties were the best. Is he talking about the executive
He's
parties?
talking about the executive parties. Yeah,
Tell me
most
about these
definitely.
executive parties. I want to hear about the
Oh
parties.
my God. They were crazy. So like my first ERC was Orlando. We rented out an entire park for our clients. We went through like I don't know, a bunch of stuff, like rides. And then we would
Like you
have a
say a
dinner.
park, like, do you mean like an
Like,
amusement
I think it
park?
was like Hollywood Studios. And like we had like a couple like particular, God, Jack, do you remember what it was? Because I can't remember the name. It was like something with a tornado. But
Oh,
anyway,
Twister. It was from the movie. It was
yes,
Universal
yeah.
Studios,
Universal Studios, that's what it
and they have
was.
the Twister thing with Bill Paxton or whatever.
Yes, yes. So
That
like we
ride. I know
walked.
that ride.
Yep, we walked through that thing, and then it was like a mini wedding. I mean, it was like a very well orchestrated event where it was like we had seating charts and who's sitting with who, and it was a great time though. I mean, we put a lot of effort in making it very enjoyable for our clients and prospective clients.
How many people would go to something like that back then?
Oh my God, I don't know. Bob and Jackie might need to weigh in. I want to say like around 50. Would we have about
Okay.
50 people?
Okay.
Yeah.
So it was still rather intimate. It wasn't like
Yes.
500.
No,
So
no, no, no,
so
no.
I think now you see a lot of these mega parties, right? You see these you see parties like, whether it be Wednesday or Thursday, sometimes after the foundation or whatever, you get some
Mhm,
really big, I threw a party in Chicago 2 years ago. I think we had 150, 175 people at Redhead Piano Bar. That was
mhm.
pretty big. We had
Yeah.
some great sponsors for that.
Cool.
Let's see here. Jack saying, yeah, Universal Studios, Paramount Studios in LA, San Antonio, Dude
Food
Ranch, closer to
Ranch.
75.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and when we were in, and I do have a story about this too. And when we were in LA, we rented a yacht out for clients. And it was right after 9/11. So it was the October conference.
oh, wow.
9/11,
Like
yeah,
1 month after
like
9/11.
1 month, right? And so like everybody in the industry is like, are we even doing this? Like, is this
Right.
gonna happen?
Am I going
Right.
to get on a plane to
Right.
go
Am
to
I
this
gonna like
thing?
fly? Yeah, exactly. And go to LA. So I remember specifically, like when we flew over, I flew with Dave Motherwell, president of Executive Relocation. Patrick Novak was on the flight, a couple other people from ERC. And, we're at the conference and we had this one vendor who I got to know really well, him and his wife was a travel agent and they were from Manhattan. And she's talking to me and it is like conspiracy theories and gloom and doom. Okay. And like I mentioned, I'm an anxious person. So I am on the yacht. Like we are at our event. I'm supposed to be like entertaining people, working the room, making sure everything's going on like perfectly. I'm like on the verge of a complete meltdown because this woman is like telling me like there's going to be more attacks on planes.
Oh,
And I'm
gee.
supposed to be flying out the next day by myself. I was not on the same flight as anybody from executive. So I'm like freaking out. I went up to Bob Noya, the amazing Bob Noya, and I was like, "Oh my God, Bob, I'm freaking out. Like I don't want to fly alone tomorrow."
Right.
And he's like, "Call Delta, find out how much the ticket is, change, let me know." Well, it's going to be $800, and I was like, "Oh my God!" So I go back to Bob. He talks to Dave Motherwell. Dave walks up to me and he's like, Marci, he's like, are you really afraid to fly alone? And I'm like, I'm terrified. And he's like, call Delta back, make the ticket change. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. And he's like, Marci, he's like, if my daughter, like, if this happened to my daughter one day, I would want someone to do the same thing for her. And like,
Mm.
I'm paying it forward with you. And
Yeah.
I
Wow.
was so appreciative for that. So I got to fly back with him and Bob the next day. I mean, the flight was fine. Everything was fine. But this woman like worked my anxiety levels up like nobody's business.
Should have charged the ticket to
Oh,
her.
yeah.
Tell
Oh,
you
look at this.
what.
It was John Wayne's old yacht. God, Patrick, how do you remember that?
Look at Patrick Novak over here.
Well, because he was
Trivia
there too. And like
genius.
I asked him, I said, do you remember like that story? He goes, Marci, he goes, I knew something was wrong with you. I just didn't know what. I'm like, yeah, I was having like a panic attack on the
Yeah,
yacht.
it's panic attack. That's it. Let's see here. We got other comments coming in. Get in the comments. Hit that like button as well. This is fantastic. I'm gonna like these. Look at Jack. Jack's getting all the likes over here, as
Hey,
Jack does.
so here's another question for you. So like I had my CRP, right?
Yep.
And I kept like a perk membership, I don't know, probably until like 2006, right? And then I'm like, I'm not doing anything with this. Why am I paying whatever amount of money it was? Let it go. What do you guys think now? Like, do I need it? Not need it? How
Do you
important
now
is
have to go
CRP?
through
Yes,
like
I
get
literally
it
I'd have to
again?
retake the test. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I say yes. I say yes. This is one of those things. I have a theory about degrees and certifications.
Okay.
So this is something you'll learn about me too, Marci, is that I make these wild, broad generalizations with little to no data, and it doesn't stop me whatsoever. I believe people with degrees and certifications believe other people should have degrees and certifications, and people who don't have degrees and certifications don't believe other people should have degrees and certifications. So if you ask a person with a master's degree if they think master's degrees are important, they'll say yes. If you ask somebody that doesn't have a college degree, they'll say you don't need a college degree. So, so you're asking somebody with a CRP, myself,
right,
who was a mover when I got it, and I do less with it now. I think it's good to have, especially as a Relo salesperson. A lot of the information on the CRP exam is so unnecessary. I mean, you're talking about tax codes from the 70s. You're talking about radon levels in homes and such and such. So much of it is just, I don't feel like it tests you on what you need to be tested on, but nonetheless, having those initials, I think, shows a commitment to the industry.
okay.
That's my take on it. I'd like to know, get in the comments, do you think the CRP is necessary for someone who's selling relocation management services these days? Let me know. Get in the comments, please. Service providers, corporate folks, get in there. Let us know if you have one or not. Also, test my theory. If you have one, if you believe it's important, I want to
What
know.
about that? So wait a minute, is the GMS still a thing? Do they even offer that at this
So
point?
this goes back to my theory. The GMS is a thing. I don't think it's that as important. But I don't have it, right? So like you can't ask me because you can ask me and I'll tell you, even though I don't have any data,
Right.
or right. But I don't think it's as important and I don't think it's as difficult to achieve.
Okay.
It's more like to me, it's more like a BA versus a BS, right?
Right.
I feel like you could fluff the GMS a little bit, and the CRP is a little more hard sciences because it's like dates and figures and things like that.
Right.
One's more domestic and one's more international. As Brad is saying, the growth is on the international side of the business. Domestic side of the business is still down from pre-pandemic levels. And so if you want to go into, that's where I'm at with it. But I haven't studied for the GMS. I haven't taken the GMS. People on my team have the GMS. I respect those people.
Okay.
I respect the fact they
Right.
have it.
Got
I don't know.
Potato. Got it.
Potatoes all day. And Scott Chapman saying, I believe the benefits of membership and certification show commitment as well. Not necessary, but shows you're a team player and not just working in the industry, but interested in the industry. Yeah. And Scott, Scott's a great example. He's got his GMST, which is the talent, aspect of that as well, in addition to the GMS. And he's in mortgage, right? A perfect example of an industry that a lot of people like in the mortgage industry space are in mortgage and work Relo as a vertical and may or may not view themselves as part of the relocation industry and may or may not take the time to make the commitment because they're just kind of like stopping by, working this vertical, getting some clients. Scott's taking the time to get that certification. So kudos to Scott. Jack Jampel says it is important to support worldwide ERC. Without ERC, we have no backbone to our industry. May not be the best ROI, but it's important to do so. Thanks, Jack.
Okay.
Doing stuff that has no ROI. Didn't say no. He didn't say no. He said it may not be the best ROI. Yeah, I do agree about the backbone thing. Like if we want to like coalesce around issues, right? Like immigration policy issues or housing stuff, like they're battling this Canadian housing issue, right? Where they're not allowing people who aren't Canadian nationals to get homes and stuff in Canada. If we find these issues, the biggest one, the biggest one is the moving expense deduction within the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017. If we don't coalesce around reinstating the moving expense deduction that was taken out via the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act of 2017, and I think it's supposed to sunset in the next year or two. If we don't really get behind that issue as an industry and pool all of our collective resources and all our tentacles, and the mortgage folks get involved and the real estate folks get involved and the movers and the logistics and the corporate. I mean, if we don't pull all of our collective might together and fix that, that is really going to be a major, frankly, a critical issue for our industry going forward, that might really undermine the value proposition of managed relocation for the foreseeable future. It gave way to a ton of lump sums, because it used to be, and Marci, you probably knows, because back in your day they had this, but the moving expense deduction meant that, moving expenses were tax deductible. You weren't taxed
Right.
on them.
Right.
And now if you get relocated, that moving expense is added to your taxable wages in your paycheck.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
It's crazy. So if you're
Yeah.
making, $75,000 a year and you had a $20,000 household goods move, now all of a sudden your taxable wages are $95,000. What? And now the corporation
Mhm.
has to then go in and hopefully do um a gross up on those taxes, and basically offset them for you and add again more taxable income to you. So anyway, I'm on my rant here, Marci. This is a rant for me, but
Okay. Hey,
yeah.
so I'm gonna like flip to something.
Ooh.
LinkedIn. Oh my God. Can we talk LinkedIn, Ben?
No, we're not allowed to talk about LinkedIn. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. We're on LinkedIn. Yeah. Yeah.
So first
What's
of all,
up?
thank you to you. Ben hosted a session with Terry Sullivan, who kind of consults with businesses, individuals, and building their LinkedIn profiles. And I listened to the session. I was furiously taking notes. I now feel like I've got a roadmap for LinkedIn.
Yes.
Tremendously helpful. And I think like talking about like what's changed from a sales process,
Yeah.
like, do I know consultative selling? Yes. Can I talk relo? Yes, I can. But like prospecting, it's so different now. Oh my gosh,
That's a
right?
big change, I bet.
Huge. And
That's
okay,
huge.
and like, and this is like funny. So like, I'm figuring things out, databases, right? There's all these acronyms. I'm like, what the what? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So LinkedIn, I never really used LinkedIn. And by the way, my LinkedIn is still pretty weak, Ben. Like I need to talk to Terry, but I'm working on it, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
working on it. And again, just like figuring out how to add connections and just building the network. So like talk to me about that, because I was listening to one of your sessions and I really appreciated something that you said. I don't know whether this was when you were in Houston, but you used some analogy about like pulling threads and how like like you're pulling threads, like slowly making movements. And it made me feel so much better, because I'm like, oh my God, I barely have any connections, but like every week I'm like making slow
Yes.
progress.
Yeah. I mean, gosh, it's changed. I can't imagine how much. I mean, LinkedIn. I joined LinkedIn in 2006. I joined LinkedIn in 2006. I think it was founded in 2004, and it was like it's dramatically changed in the last 10 years, 5-10 years. And now I feel like it's everything. I still think there's a lot of folks who don't engage with it the way that obviously we as business development people engage with it, but
Mhm.
to me it's my favorite social network, and I think it's probably um the biggest professional hack out there for business development people and people looking to network, because you can search anybody, you can search anybody on Facebook, you can search anybody on Instagram, you can Google anybody, you can search anybody on any social network, but you can't search them by like where they work, what their job title is,
Right.
like what they're posting about um within that context. And I feel like that is, people still underestimate the power of LinkedIn. And there's a lot of people out there with a lot more connections than I have, even that are in our industry. I mean, I have probably, I don't know, like 16,000 probably connections.
Mhm.
You max out at 35,000. So I'm not even halfway to max. So I'm not, to me, even doing everything I can do with it. But I think it's more so, besides how many people you're connected with, which is hugely important, and you're
Right.
doing the right thing by connecting. It's how you engage with it, and you should be posting 2 to 3 times per week, and you should be commenting on and liking and commenting on 3 to 5 posts per day, as Terry would say, right? And shout out to Terry
Right.
Sullivan as well. And Janet Turner's connecting with you right now. So you're doing your
Thank
thing
you.
right now, Marci.
Yeah, anybody that's listening, connect with me, please.
Yeah, and connect with Terry Sullivan too. He's got some great stuff out there, and hit up speakwithterry.com. But I think it's amazing. I mean, do you have any particular questions for me about LinkedIn or areas where you want to explore?
Okay, so I guess, well, so I think I talked to Terry a little bit, and this is kind of a funny story, like appearance on LinkedIn. Okay.
Ah,
So there's
like
appearance,
physical
like
appearance? Like,
physical appearance. Okay. So like
yeah,
I had a LinkedIn like everybody else, right? Like, I mean, but I didn't do anything with it, right? Because I wasn't really in the corporate world.
right.
So I take the job with Relocation America International, and like I'm
Yep.
getting feedback like your LinkedIn profile sucks. Like you need to like, like update it, right? And then I'm like, and then whatever picture I had out there wasn't that great. They're like, change your picture. So I throw out this other photo, right? So I have
That's
my
so rough.
husband, and my husband, right, is like brutally honest with me. So I'm like, look at my LinkedIn. I just changed my picture. He's like, oh my God, your forehead looks huge. He's like, change that picture, right? So it was like 3 weeks of me playing around with my picture. And I'm like, do I need a professional picture or like not a professional picture, right? So like right
Yeah.
now, I do not have a professional picture out there, but I'm like, God, like, you know, do I need a more professional
Can
picture?
everybody go to Marci's LinkedIn right now and first connect with her, and second, leave her feedback in the comments about her photo? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, I think with it, I mean, honestly, if everybody has most people have an iPhone or
Right.
an amazing Samsung device that has like 8 million lenses on the back of it. I think there's you can take an amazing picture, make sure you're well lit on a white background, and you can do tremendous things. You can also even go on to an app like, I think it's Pixel Cut, and you can actually take a picture and then actually cut out the background and
Okay.
then just like white it out if you want, or black it out, or do some cool funky thing with it if you want to.
Right.
So I mean, I would definitely recommend that. I mean, don't take a picture. I've seen people take pictures like in the bathroom. I've seen people take pictures in their car, like driving to a job interview. You could tell it's like the only time they've ever worn a suit, and they're in the car driving to the job interview right now. And they're like, well, I might as well take a picture of myself in the suit because I never wear a suit. So, and they're like, I got the seat belt and like the upholstery and stuff. So,
Right.
I mean, don't do that. But I mean, have somebody take a picture of you against a wall with good natural light hitting your face, and or a ring light if you need, and
Right.
then I think you're there,
Okay.
honestly.
So question about posting. So
Yeah,
obviously I'm getting back in the game, right? Like I'm back, baby. Building up all my like
that should be your
relocation.
first post is, I'm back, baby.
Hey, I when I texted Portali, I was like, I'm back, baby. Like I'm here. But like I'm thinking about what can I post about that might be interesting to people, right? And like I know a
Oh,
lot
good
about
question. Can I stop you there? Can I stop you there?
yeah, go. Yeah.
Never ask yourself what's interesting to people. Post
Okay.
what's interesting to yourself.
Okay.
Screw those people.
Oh
Honestly,
my
even if
God.
they're interested in it, they won't tell you. So
Okay.
do stuff for yourself. Use yourself as your own barometer. If you think it's
Got
amazing,
it.
if you think it's insightful, if you think it's inspiring, post it. And then if
So
nobody comments or likes it or whatever, you liked it.
move
You
on
know what I
from it,
mean?
right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
Don't
that's
ever ask
good.
yourself what other people want.
Okay.
I do that myself all the time, and it's the biggest trap. And then I never post anything, because guess what? You'll never know if somebody else is gonna like it.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that trap. Think about, it's such a trap, right?
It
Because,
is a
oh,
trap.
I only post
Which
if
is
they
why
like, if
which
they
is why I haven't been posting because I'm like, oh my
exactly.
God, what do I do? Is anyone gonna like this? Like, I don't even know.
We have no idea if anybody's ever gonna like it. Like Kyle Blaylock, the most unpredictable man in Tennessee. We don't know if he's gonna like it. I do a show every day. I don't know if Kyle's gonna join. Someday he surprises me, some days he doesn't. But I have to like that show one way or the other.
Funny.
Love Kyle. Just kidding.
Hey, so another interesting thing about rejoining the corporate world.
Yes.
So I spent weeks going, how do I dress now, Ben? Like, this is like a big thing, okay? So I get the
Yeah.
job at Relocation America, right? And I'm like, okay, like, oh my God. Like, I've been working in a school and like with COVID, everybody kind of dressed up, but then it went to like jeans and hoodies. So like my wardrobe is crap, right? So for Christmas, so I consulted with a friend who's president of a financial organization locally in Michigan. And I'm like, will you meet
Sounds like a big shot. Okay, let's see what the
yeah,
friend said.
she is. And I was like, hey, will you meet with me? And I'm like, I have like a question for you. I'm like, how are women dressing these days? And
That's a slippery slope question, and it needs more context.
in the workplace, right? So basically, she told me she has a personal stylist, and no.
This is why you can't ask these people this stuff, because it doesn't apply to you at all. Like, you're like day one and she's day 1 million, and you're asking her how she does it. It's like,
oh my God, no, but
like, how does J-Lo look so fly? Like, don't ask that question. Wrong question,
Oh my God. Well, no, but this is what she said. She's like, Marci, she goes, I wear like jeans and a hoodie most days into the office. She's like, things have changed dramatically. She goes, even if a client's coming in, it's like blazers and blue jeans. She goes, that's about as dressed up as I get. She's like, but that being said, she goes, I hired the stylist. So for Christmas, my husband hired the stylist for me. So I meet with this woman at Somerset Mall, which is like a very like upper end bougie mall in Metro Detroit. She takes me through the ranks. I've got this like amazing wardrobe now. And like, again, because she was like, I want to come and look at your closet first. I'm like, there's nothing in my closet. It's like all casual stuff, right? So I went to the Midwest relocation conference this past month. I had her come to my house the week before and help me pack, Ben, because I wanted to make sure that I looked correct for this conference.
How did you feel? How did you feel when you got there? How did you feel like you looked? Like,
oh, I was spot on. I was spot on. Yeah. Nice. And and here's what I'll say, like the industry, oh my God. Like, I'm walking and Jack was there. I knew Jack. I got to see Port Tally. Everybody was so warm and welcoming. I mean, first of all, it was like this huge family reunion happening, which was amazing, but everyone has been so great to connect with.
All right, I'm still in the wardrobe. What was the piece that you got that you were like that was like a revelation to you that she put you onto, that you were like, I'm glad I got that piece? Like,
oh my God. Okay. Well, so she had me buy 2 forms of leather jackets, which is so weird. And like, so
2 leather jackets,
and one's vegan leather, Ben. It's a thing. And it's important because
I feel like if you're half vegan, it doesn't count, but keep going.
But anyways, okay. So like, and I'm like texting with another one of my professional friends. And I'm like, oh my God, I got this amazing black leather jacket, blah, blah, blah. I'm feeling like I know how to dress now. And she's like, is it vegan? And I'm like, no. She's like, you need a vegan leather jacket. I'm like, oh my God.
It's different. The game's changed. The game has changed, Marci. People are chiming in here. This is great. Aaron saying, love the transparency going on here throughout this entire conversation. You can see why everyone loves you, Marci Howes.
Oh, thank you.
Isn't that cool? Dimitri says, life is often unpredictable. So are our careers. Great to see you, Marci. Love it. Janet Turner with some great, amazing advice here. Besides listen to Ben.
Listen to Ben.
No, that wasn't what I was talking about, I promise. Janet says, do something catchy with your yoga and incorporate Relo. Okay, let me tell you about Janet Turner.
Yeah, okay.
Janet was hitting a milestone birthday. She was having this like kind of identity crisis, like, oh my gosh, am I relevant? Am I who I was? Am I, all this stuff was going through her head, right? Because our head is a scary place to be, right? And she was like that. And she was like, I want to dye my hair purple. And I was like, Janet, that would be okay, but I think what you're doing you're doing something to solve for something over here, and like, let's talk about this a little bit. Anyway, Janet came on. She produced Love Relo for a year plus. She was amazing, super instrumental in getting the show off the ground and making it what it is. Anyway, Janet has found this like new chapter of her identity and this new this new chapter in her career and her life. And she's flourishing. She's doing amazing. She got this new amazing job. She just got promoted again. She's now got the C-level job now. And she's finding all this relevance, all this self-actualization, all this purpose in her life. and her LinkedIn postings. So her persona kind of started as like the super producer for Love and Relo, but she's doing this like tea with Janet thing, right? This
Oh,
tea with
cool.
me thing, right? And it's because she makes her own teas. She's like into these botanicals and this natural stuff, this herbal stuff. And so she also makes her own soaps and lotions and stuff like that. But she's making these teas and kind of like reflecting and sharing the teas, and people are connecting with her on a personal level and then connecting with her feelings and beliefs.
Cool.
And the
Love
reason
it.
why it's Love and Relo is because, like, if somebody just comes down and we start talking about Relo, nobody cares, it's a webinar. But if we start talking about things like cancer, and we start talking about things like, what do I wear to MRC, and we start talking about this, our personal stuff, like, people connect with that on a level that's so much more important. And
Right.
so that's where, and she's saying, if you were to, because you're into yoga, so if
Right.
you were like all about yoga and Relo, like, that's a thing that a lot of people would connect with.
And that's what that was one of my ideas, to start posting about stuff like that, because that's what I know. That's who I am. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. She said, she corrects, she's the elder intern producer. Janet jokes that she's the elder intern because even though she's older than me, she felt like I mentored her, which is an honor. But she taught
Awesome.
me a lot of things too. And that was great. It was wonderful. Aaron's laughing. Yes. Hey, you've prepared a couple things here, and the time's getting away from me a
I
little bit,
know.
Marci.
Yeah.
Okay. But some of this stuff is too dang good to skip here. Can we do an overrated, underrated, Marci?
Let's do it.
All right, let's hop into this overrated. Now I know you're new to the business here. Okay. So do you know how this overrated, underrated thing works?
Walk me through it.
Okay. I'm gonna throw something out there, and you're gonna tell me if it's overrated or underrated.
Okay.
And then I'm going to tell you if you're right or wrong.
Oh,
That's a
awesome.
joke. I'm not supposed to laugh at my own jokes, but sometimes people might think I'm serious if I don't.
Okay.
Overrated, underrated. Here we go. Adam, what's the first one? Electric vehicles. You're in Detroit.
Motor City, baby. I'm going to say electric vehicles overrated.
They don't call it Battery City. They call it Motor
That's
City.
right.
Overrated. EVs. Overrated. Hottest thing on the street and the stock market. Overrated. Why is that?
Okay, so this is like a highly, like, I'm a car family. Like, between my husband and I, we own 7 cars, and my son is really passionate about electric vehicles not being the thing. And I'm not going to say like totally against electric vehicles, just not there yet. I mean, there's so many funny memes out there about gas compressors like charging electric vehicle batteries, right? I mean,
Oh.
and it's like, is the energy source clean?
Is it really clean?
Yeah,
Because
is it
how
really
did the
clean?
energy get into the car? You're
Right.
saying,
Yeah,
like, stuff like
exactly,
that.
exactly. And then charging, long distance trips, logistical nightmare. So I'm saying
Yeah.
at this point, jury's still out, overrated.
So I love to argue. It's one reason I do this. You bring up a great point. You make a really good point. I said I hadn't considered about where does the energy come that goes to the EVs. Where does that come from? I will say this about that. I I I I would love to own an EV. I do not own an EV. Don't have plans to buy one. I think Teslas are overrated, though.
Okay.
I think Teslas are wildly overrated. Um, they're too small to get into, and I'm a big man. Okay, I have needs, and those Teslas are too tiny. And I don't like how their charging stations take up half the parking lot. And I just end up parking my
Mhm.
gas powered car in one of their Tesla spots because I'm like, y'all's got half the parking lot over here.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I might be with you. I might actually.
All
I
right.
hate to be the guy that's anti EV, but they're
Well,
overrated.
I'm just saying, we're not saying we're against it completely. Jury's still out, right?
I want one, but I want better options.
Right.
I want better EV options. Like, they got the trucks coming out, the Rivian
Yeah.
stuff coming out. So I
Right.
want better options. Next one. Dark chocolate, overrated or underrated?
Underrated.
Underrated.
Underrated. Dark chocolate. It is so healthy for you. So I'd say that's like one of my like top treats if I'm going to do something heart healthy, can lower your blood pressure, anti-cancer. It's a great, if you're going to do something, and I would say probably 75% darken up. That's your best bet.
75%. Is that like 75% cacao or what?
Cacao, right? Yep, exactly.
Which sounds like a parrot or something.
It's a cacao bean.
Cacao.
Yeah, lots of antioxidant properties.
We got people checking in here. Scott Chapman said overrated for sure. Scott might be talking about the EV, the electric vehicles. I'm not sure if he's talking about the chocolate. Janet Turner says dark chocolate rules. Yeah, you make a strong case. I think the older I get, the more of a nuanced palate I have. So I'll let that one go. I think dark chocolate might be underrated here.
Okay.
Look at this. Adrian says EVs are highly overrated at this time. Man, that's a hot take that's gaining some traction in the comments here. Let's see. We got time for one more.
Okay.
Sugar.
Overrated, baby. We'll say like simple sugars, okay? Oh my God. If I could say anything for my whole health journey, if there's one change you're going to make to your diet, it's either eliminate or cut down on the crap sugar. Like, and I won't name out products, but we'll just say like the sugary drinks, the bars, like, yeah, not good for your body.
Well, I mean, not the hottest take, but I mean, I'm over here drinking this like French vanilla cappuccino here. These are like, we moved into this place and we got this machine that makes these like French vanilla lattes and cappuccinos and whatever. I don't know what they do to make it French vanilla, but I guarantee there's sugar in it. It tastes like it's like crack here. So yeah, we're as a country, I mean, we're addicted to sugar for sure.
We are addicted to sugar. But I mean, again, am I gonna like sit here and say I don't have sugar ever? Like that would be lying. Okay. Like
there's sugar in your dark chocolate.
I know there's sugar in the dark chocolate. I mean, it's like basically impossible to be sugar free because again, it's like even if you're eating a carb, it's going to convert to sugar. It's like a whole thing. But I'm just saying the things that are within our control, like if you want to have your sugary beverage, like maybe don't do it every day, like cut down a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's me being,
how old are your kids? How old are your kids?
My kids are 19 and 16. Or actually, Zachary will be 19 in a couple weeks.
We need to get them on the show here. I want to understand this sugar-free.
Oh my God. Our house is a freak show. Like, okay, so like my husband is gluten-free. I've got 2 kids with nut allergies. Like my kids love gluten. It's like eating out with us is like a nightmare. And like, I mean, my son for a while at the dinner table would be like, I want gluten. Like, I don't want to eat this gluten-free pasta. I mean, it was like whole like,
you're having gluten fights out at restaurants, making scenes. Janet Turner's got a question here. Janet says, how do you feel about honey?
Okay, so I think honey's got some good properties. So again, is that a simple sugar? It is, but like Manuka honey, super healthy for you.
Manuka honey?
Manuka honey, yeah, that's got like high antioxidant properties, antibacterial.
What's Manuka?
Okay, I can't explain that part to you. So I'm kind of.
I always thought you're supposed to eat honey local. Like local honey is good for
like raw honey, but like Manuka, and I'd have to look it up. So forgive me for not like having it at the top of my head. But like Manuka honey, it's like antiviral. Like they use it in wound care even. Like if you have like a bad wound, you put Manuka honey on it, and it's got like great healing properties for the skin.
Adam Sotelo, our producer, shaking his head like he dresses his wound with honey. And puts granola on it too. He says,
"Damn, a wealth of information here, Ben."
Yeah, no, it's good. It's really good. I'm glad. Scott Chapman weighing in with a super hot take: would rather lick a parrot's cage than eat dark chocolate.
Wow,
so I got some dark chocolate for you.
All right.
Oh, gee whiz. Patrick Novak, she can bring the quinoa. Patrick joked the other day with Marci that she might not be the best invite to the company potluck.
Yeah, wow. Well, I was telling a story about like my husband's like 10-year reunion. It was like this potluck thing, and he was like, "Make that quinoa dish. It tastes like so good." Ben, nobody ate my dish. It was like so embarrassing.
It's sitting there. I've been to Michigan potlucks before, okay, and they're not biodiverse. We'll just say that. Janet's here putting Manuka on. Yes, thank you for putting the link in there. Appreciate it.
Thank you. There we go.
This is a lot of fun. This is people are getting in the comments. This is great. Aaron Venables taking exception to Adrian Grimes' anti-EV comment there. That's our initials. This is great. This is a lot of fun. Marci, this has been great. Do you want to leave people maybe with just a final thought as we part here today?
Well, I'm living life with gratitude. And, I put something, actually, I'm going to read this to you. I put this out on my LinkedIn, Ben. This is what I'm going to this is like my mantra right now: creating authentic connections with gratitude, joy, and integrity.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Creating authentic connections.
So looking forward to connecting with whoever wants to connect with me. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to spend time with you. And thank you, everybody that chimed in. It's awesome.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you, everybody who got in the comments. To Marci's point, we wouldn't have a show without you. We'd just be two people talking. So thank you, everyone who got in there. Hit that like button again. Thanks for letting us know how you feel out there. Tune in this week. We've got more Love and Relo coming to you. We got Steve Jordan, editor and publisher of The Mover, which is probably the biggest global moving publication in the world. So that's gonna be fun to talk to him about the global economy, where he sees relocation heading. Thank you so much, Marci Howes from Relocation America International. Appreciate you being with us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.